Everyone in that neighborhood knew her. The woman who moved like she owned every driveway, every lawn, every breath of the cul-de-sac. To most people, she was just an annoying HOA president with too much time and too little empathy. But no, one imagined she would go so far as to fake a 911 emergency to force her way into a man's home. She claimed she saw suspicious activity inside a garage and insisted officers respond immediately. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the man she was trying to target wasn't just any homeowner. He was Police Chief Gabriel Moore, standing quietly inside that same garage while her whole act unfolded outside. And when the door began lifting, inch by inch, her expression revealed everything. The lie, the bias, and the dangerous intent behind her false alarm. What happens when a racist weaponizes the system, only to find the system waiting for her? Watch until the end. Wait a second. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more powerful and inspiring stories just like this one. Gabriel Moore had served his city for more than 20 years. He had walked through danger, navigated chaos, rebuilt shattered trust, and risen to the position of police chief with a reputation for fairness and integrity. After decades of emergency calls and intense nights, he wanted nothing more than a peaceful life with his family. That desire brought him to a quiet, suburban neighborhood where the streets glowed under soft evening lights. Children rode their bikes freely, and families watered their lawns in silence. At first glance, it looked like the perfect place to rest. But perfection often hides its cracks. In that community lived Linda Parker, the self-anointed queen of the HOA. She ruled the cul-de-sac with a clipboard, a fake sense of authority, and a belief that rules applied only when she wanted them to. To her, violations weren't just about grass length or trash bins. They were opportunities for control. From the moment Gabriel moved in, she watched him the way people watch storms, quietly, suspiciously, anticipating something that wasn't there. She left notes for things no one else received. She measured how long his garage stayed open. She wrote warnings about approved flower colors. She even wandered by his home more often than mere coincidence would allow. Residents thought she was annoying. Gabriel's family soon realized she was something else. This wasn't about order. It was about who she believed belonged and who didn't. And as time went on, her obsession became impossible to ignore. What began as petty rule enforcement slowly twisted into targeted surveillance. Linda's behavior changed from passive-aggressive to openly hostile. She frequently paused outside the Moore home, scribbling in her notebook even when nothing was happening. The house was the center of her daily patrols, though no other property received the same level of attention. It escalated when neighbors reported overhearing her make odd comments, questions about whether proper background checks had been conducted before Gabriel purchased his home, and insinuations that she felt unsafe around certain types of people living nearby. Though she never said Gabriel's name, it was painfully clear who she meant. When Gabriel's teenage daughter came home shaken after overhearing Linda loudly discussing whether he was really who he claimed to be, the pattern snapped fully into focus. Gabriel began documenting everything: the notes, the photos she took, the unnecessary visits, the doorbell camera footage. Experience told him people like Linda rarely stopped on their own. Instead, they escalated until someone intervened, or someone got hurt. And then came the day that proved him right. One quiet afternoon, Gabriel worked inside his garage, repairing an old motorcycle, a hobby he rarely had time for. The garage, the door was partially open, just enough to bring in fresh air. He wiped grease from his hands and leaned into his work when he heard footsteps approaching the driveway. He glanced toward the opening. Linda stood outside, pacing with her phone in hand. Her demeanor was tense, almost excited. She kept glancing at the house as though waiting for a cue. Then, without hesitation, she dialed a number. He knew instantly what she was doing. Within seconds, her voice rose in feigned panic. She described a possible burglary happening right now inside the Moore garage. She told the dispatcher she feared for her safety. She insisted that officers respond immediately. This wasn't a simple lie. It was a weapon, a weapon she wielded, knowing the consequences it could bring. A weapon historically used to endanger black families, with devastating results. Gabriel stepped back, staying calm. He didn't dare walk outside while she was framing the scene. He knew exactly how such calls were processed. He knew officers might arrive expecting a threat. He knew sudden movement could be misinterpreted. So he positioned himself clearly inside the garage, visible, calm, identifiable, and unmistakably in uniform, because he had come straight from a meeting and hadn't yet changed out of his official clothes, and he waited. Outside, Linda continued her dramatic performance, ready to unleash chaos. But she was walking into something she never expected. Minutes later, sirens echoed through the neighborhood, fast, sharp, and urgent. Linda straightened, like a performer receiving her spotlight. She rushed forward as the police car pulled up, waving her arms as if guiding them toward danger. She pointed frantically at the Moore garage, painting a picture of imminent threat. Her voice shook theatrically as she claimed someone had broken, in that she saw movement, that she feared the intruder might still be inside. The officers stepped out, tension visible in their posture. They scanned the area, alert and ready. They approached the garage with caution, hands near their holsters, the exact scenario Linda wanted to create. One officer pressed the exterior control to raise the door. The garage door began lifting slowly. First came the sight of polished black boots, then the outline of a perfectly organized garage, then the tan police uniform, then the gleam of a badge. And finally, Police Chief Gabriel Moore, standing steady, calm, and completely unharmed. The transformation on Linda's face was instant. Her confidence evaporated. Her mouth dropped open, her breath caught, and her staged panic collapsed into sheer horror. She hadn't just lied. She had lied to the police about their own chief. The officers froze too, recognizing him immediately. Their tense expressions shifted into shock and disbelief. In that moment, the truth shattered her entire narrative. The intruder was the homeowner. The suspicious activity was a man fixing his motorcycle, and the danger she claimed wasn't danger. It all just the bias inside. Her own mind, her weapon had misfired, and everyone saw it happen. The officers quickly regained composure and separated Linda from the scene. Gabriel stepped forward, calm and professional, as they questioned her about the false report. Her excuses poured out in a frenzied stream, claims that she thought she saw something, that she just wanted to help, that it was a misunderstanding. But bodycam footage doesn't lie. Doorbell cameras don't lie. 911 recordings don't lie. Her behavior had been deliberate, calculated, and dangerous. She was cited immediately for filing a false emergency report, an offense that carries severe penalties. Within days, the HOA suspended her authority pending investigation, and as neighbors learned what really happened, Moore came forward with stories of her biased actions, providing a clearer picture of a long pattern of discrimination, disguised as community safety. Gabriel returned inside afterwards, sitting quietly for a moment. Not shaken, but reflective. He had spent years trying to improve the relationship between law enforcement and the communities they served. He had worked to reduce fear, ensure accountability, and encourage trust. Yet even he wasn't immune to the kind of racism that hides behind rules, regulations, and fabricated worries. What she did was more than harassment, more than a false report, more than a personal attack. It was a reminder of how easily systems can be abused and how quickly a life can be endangered when prejudice is given power. But one good thing came out of it. The incident sparked a long overdue conversation among neighbors about bias, profiling, and accountability, not whispered behind closed doors, not brushed aside as a misunderstanding, but confronted directly. And the question that lingered over the entire neighborhood echoed far beyond it. If this can happen to a police chief, how many people has it already happened to who never got the chance to tell their story? If this story moved you, share your thoughts below and let's keep this conversation alive. Where are you watching from? Please tell me your city and country. Take care.